Hey, and welcome to the Beyond Resistance Pod, where we share hard-won insights to build blue power in red communities and start winning. I'm Sarah Schultz.
And I'm Jennifer Austin.
Hey, Jennifer, how are you?
I'm okay. How are you?
I'm all right. I'm all right. What's got you fired up these days?
Okay. So I heard a recent news story, and it was on one of my podcasts too, but I saw the story first. About there's this group called Mothership, and they're a fundraising machine. Um, and they have raised millions and millions, like maybe even billions. I don't remember the numbers. Go look up the article, people, if you want to know all of that. I'm just going to give you impressions. The one number I do remember is after all this money that they have raised, it looks like they have only given 11 million to the candidates they were supposed to be raising money for. And this is a Democratic organization raising money for Democrats. They're like some of the ones that send you text messages all the time.
Ah,
And so like that story has me fired up that we need, not we, because I think that your campaign, the Midland County Democratic Party, the people that we consult with, we do a good job of fundraising in a very organic way.
Yeah.
But I think these text messages, these bazillions of text messages you get, and you don't know where they're coming from, and you don't know where the money's going to. I'm furious with them. I'm furious with this group spending. It was like multiples, like 10 times as much on overhead, essentially, than they did giving it to candidates. And like, just, it's ridiculous.
Now I'm fired up.
That is not fired. Well, it's got me fired up mad.
Yeah, no doubt. Oh my gosh. That makes a strong case for giving locally, because we know, like, in our work on the Midland County Democratic Party and our work on local campaigns, like, what we even say, like, we are responsible for spending whatever amount of money we take in to get candidates elected, especially local candidates.
Yeah.
Like, and so, like, we don't, like, stockpile cash or use it for ridiculous things. We make sure that, like, we are entrusted with these funds for the purpose of getting candidates elected. And yeah, I always question all those texts and all of that stuff, because those lists keep getting bought and sold and bought and sold, and you never know, like, and you can put Pete Buttigieg's picture on whatever text you send, and that doesn't mean it's coming from him. So that's ridiculous that's happening, and sadly not super surprising.
And so I caution everybody listening, if you receive these texts or even a Facebook ad or an email, anything you receive that says, I need money, do not give through whatever link. And I know that there are going to be politicians out there that are really pissed at me, but here's what I think you should do. If you get this ad and you're like, oh yeah, I really like this candidate, I want to donate, go to your computer or your phone, type in their name, find their campaign website, and donate to them directly. They get nearly all of the money. Yes, Act Blue does take a small commission. I'm talking pennies off of things, like less than 3 or 4%, I think. And that's operating fees, which, we don't like that either. But you know what? It's a service we need to have. Yes, go directly to the candidates.
Yeah, that's great advice. Especially
use them as reminders, not as your link to.
And great advice now, kind of mid-election cycle, right? Before we, things really start getting heated up for 2026 and the flood of texts and all the things come. Well, okay, I'm fired up about that now. And before that, I was fired up from an article or a story I read at NPR this morning, which is absolutely ridiculous. Like, my capacity to still be shocked is there. Like, I can still be shocked at what's going on. I'm not surprised at anything anymore, but I still have the ability to be shocked. And I was shocked once again this morning when I saw that story on NPR with attached footage of a man during the January 6th insurrection riots, shouting about killing the police officers, literally using the words "kill them." okay, if that's not horrific enough, this man, the reason we have this footage is because he was charged with, all sorts of things related to this and was in the middle of his trial. So all this footage came out during his trial when Trump took office and stopped all of the, investigations. And if that's not bad enough, I'm so fired up about this part. Then this fucking administration takes that man who shouted, "Kill the police" during the January 6th riot insurrection and gives him a job as a senior advisor in the Justice Department. So this man, and during his trial, before his trial got, ended, he admitted to saying these things. So this man who did all of this, tried to like incite people to kill police officers who are defending the Capitol, is now on the federal government payroll as a senior advisor for the Justice Department. And I am fired up and outraged and shocked anew at the depths to which we are willing, that this administration is willing to go.
I am not shocked. I hate it. Don't get me wrong. I hate it. But there's like literally almost nothing they can do at this point that will shock me. I'm just waiting for all of it. But oh my fucking God, how horrible. Can you even believe that? These are the people with the flags that have the blue line in it, back the blue, defend the cops. I know so many people that are Trump supporters that part of their support of Trump is because of the police. And here you've got his supporters wanting to kill the police. They get, even if they, like for this man obviously never got convicted or sentenced, got a full pardon.
Yeah, he would have gotten convicted, but even if he had, he would have been pardoned.
And like Jeremy Rogers here in Midland, who got convicted, he was the freshman flagger. And he got convicted, was pardoned by Trump, and is now assaulting police officers. Like, Jesus fucking Christ. Yes, he had a police officer with a pole. And and now we're just like, oh, okay, they can totally serve in Michigan House, of Representatives or in the Department of Justice or whatever. Like, oh,
it's outrageous.
It is disgusting. And it's, that's where we're seeing, like with ICE, you're seeing people quitting ICE because they're like, this is not what I signed up for. But then you've got people, also trying to fill those roles because they want to be the people.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Those folks probably been ICE agents for years and, believed in what they were doing, are leaving because they're not aligned anymore with the efforts of that agency. And we need them there, actually. We need them to stay because they're creating a vacuum to be filled with Proud Boys and all the other folks who are, excited to knock some heads around. And it's terrifying with very little, likely, training or anything. And this whole issue of like this cognitive dissonance of like back the blue and also like supporting Trump, who pardons, people who are threatening to kill the police and who, assault police officers. Like that hits home for me because I was running for State House in 2020 during the whole like defund the police like stuff that was going on. And so like, every single Democratic candidate that year was getting a ton of ads and TV ads and, mailers, negative mailers out about them that all said that we wanted to defund the police. There was literally like no basis for any of that. There was no words that I uttered, no thing that I wrote, no anything at all that would lead someone to believe that I wanted to defund the police. And yet, truth doesn't matter. We're just going to lump everybody up into this space because it doesn't matter. There's no repercussions for lying or making things up. We'll just spend millions of dollars because all that matters is like that these Republican candidates get elected and people who hold wealth and power continue to hold wealth and power. Yeah. And it's horrible. And so here we go again, and I don't know about you, but like, I cannot imagine trying to hold those two things. Like I back the blue and I support, Trump in office, and then laying my head down and trying to go to sleep. Like I don't know how those two things can exist in one brain and have that brain be reconciled enough to like actually fall asleep at night, because I know I could not hold that level of dissonance in my head and
Yes.
be able to still function. They
Well,
like turned off their ability to kind of have rational thought, I guess.
two things on that. One, they're not like you. they don't have values and morals and conscience in the way that you do. And two, I think that it's things like, well, I don't like it, but power. The thing that's important is that we hold power. So I'm gonna eat crow,
Yeah.
or back off on this one little thing, so we can have power. Or the mental gymnastics that come into play.
Yeah.
That they're like, well, but those weren't good cops. Those were capital.
If they're willing to like, defend the Capitol,
yeah, then they're
then
not good. They're not good cops.
that must mean
So
that they're
it's okay.
not.
It's only, we only back the good cops.
I don't get it. I don't understand. And there's so much, like, there's just one example of that kind of dissonance.
Yeah.
Anyhow, I'm pretty fired up about that one today. Still have the capacity to be shocked. I'll let you know when that goes away. Surprise left, in 2016, 2015. Like, I'm not surprised anymore, but I can still be shocked. Anyhow, well, one of the things that we were kind of planning on talking about today has to do with what we're seeing kind of nationally and how we've experienced it locally around Democrats like fighting back. And it's something that we've touched on here and there in the pod, but recently, what we're seeing nationally kind of going on is that there's an effort that's been spurred on by Trump in the Texas state legislature to off cycle and kind of in an unheard of fashion, redraw their district lines. Now, district lines are usually drawn the year after the census, and then they're good for 10 years. Like that's true everywhere. So right now is not a time that, district lines get to be redrawn, but Trump is pushing the, fully, Republican controlled legislature in Texas to redraw its lines now. And to the effect of essentially, because you can draw these gerrymandered districts in ways that means you get more seats in the U.S. Congress. So he's trying to essentially eliminate all the democratically held Texas seats in Congress by like pressuring the Texas legislature to do redistricting completely off cycle. And what we're seeing in response to that is that the Democrats in Texas have basically left the state. Not all the Democrats, but the Democrats in the Congress, not all the Democrats in Texas, left the state, and they left the state so that the legislature could not have a quorum. So it literally like shut down the legislative body in Texas. And who knows how long they'll be gone or how long this can last or whatever.
Or what's going to happen because they're being threatened with fines and lawsuits and losing their position and arrest and everything.
Yeah. Because if they return and there is a quorum, then this redistricting will pass because there's enough kind of majority, but they have to have like 2/3 or something to have a quorum to be able to vote at all. If they have a quorum, they can vote, and then it's majority. And so that's going on. And so the Democrats are fighting back in this sort of like radical way by sort of fleeing the state. And then at the same time, I heard that the Democratic-controlled legislature in California is considering doing the same thing, essentially redistricting off-cycle California to counterbalance the seats that Texas might get if they do their districting. So like Texas could redistrict and get five new seats for Republicans, for example, and then California could redistrict and get 5 new seats for Democrats, and essentially counterbalance. And all that is going on, and I will stop talking to get your insights into this, but my insight is, I don't really love the like tit for tat, like whatever, But what I do love is like seeing some pockets of Democrats doing something
Yeah.
like not following the general rules, being willing to like, you know, stay within the law, but also like be super creative and like counter what's going on, because we know this administration is just not, you know, not burdened at all by like tradition and like, you know, the way things usually go. And I'm excited to see that in small pockets, because I think we have to start taking guns to gunfights, and we've been taking like knives or like feathers to gunfights, and that's been very frustrating. So that's kind of like what's on my mind right now.
Yeah. And so first of all, I'm going to repeat something I said in one of our very first podcasts. Fuck norms and rules.
Exactly.
If it's not a law,
yeah,
I don't care anymore. I'm not saying we have to break them all, but I'm saying they shouldn't hold us back. You know, that I have had enough of like, this is the way we've done it for 100 years. I don't care.
I know. And that's a big deal coming from you, because you're a rule follower. Like like it's a like I'm a rule breaker, so it's pretty normal for someone to think you're like, that I would be that way. But like, you know, you as a leader in the local Democratic Party, like I know that you care a lot about like decorum and rules and all like what's come before. And, you know, so that I think it says more that you're, you know, in that space.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah. And like, okay, so and also just to highlight a few things. So like we're talking about California is threatening to redistrict if Texas does. New York is threatening to redistrict as well, although they will not be like the procedure they would have to go through, it would not be ready until 2028. So it won't affect the 2026 election.
Okay.
But the way that New York was redistrict, there are a lot of purple districts that Republicans won that I don't think that they'll win again. The margins were narrow enough that I think in a blue wave election, we can totally take that. And that's also potentially true of some of these Republican districts in Texas. I don't know. They're a little heavier red than purple. But they're looking at Trump numbers. And not all Trump voters come out in midterms.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So they could, if we have a big enough wave, they could actually hurt themselves, but I'm not counting on that. I know that Illinois is also looking at that. But the thing that scares me is that if all the red states decide to gerrymander and all the blue states decide to gerrymander, those that can, there's more potential for the red states than the blue states.
Yeah.
Because like Michigan, we have a independent citizens redistricting commission, so we can't redistrict until the census comes out again.
Right. Yeah, we're pretty safe here. And that, you know, that goes back to like years of effort, like grassroots effort, you know, with the petitions and the ballot initiatives that we got that. Yeah, I mean, it's just like one of those things that like can snowball, and then like actually redistricting and gerrymandering is bad for democracy.
Yeah.
So like I'm not like necessarily in favor of like, you know, like this snowball of Texas does it, so California responds. So, you know, I don't know, Alabama says I'm going to do it too, and then there's like New York, like that to me in some is bad, but the fact that there is like we're not just like rolling over and being like, oh, well, let's see what Texas does and we'll just fight harder. But that we're actually
try to win, even though it's a Trump plus 10.
Exactly. Yeah. That
and
we're
we
actually
also know
that
the DNC, and I'm assuming like at least we've seen this in Michigan. If you've got a heavily Republican district, the state party, the national party, they aren't going to put money into your campaign. They aren't 100% going to help you.
Yeah. So like if we get, you know, more districts that are more plus kind of on the red side, then I mean, I know that so personally because like in my 2018 campaign, I got no support at all, like from the state party at all. And I only lost by 2 points. And that was because of the like the general feeling that Midland's always been red.
Yeah.
And probably whatever, like outdated polling numbers. And I lost by only 2 points. And the state party invested in other campaigns, Democratic candidates, for like, $1 million or more. And those candidates lost by more than 10 points. And so,
Yeah.
like, it's very, very short-sighted, our party, the way that we kind of allocate resources and decide what our priorities are. So, yeah, any shift in that, what we see in the polling and the whatever can, like, have a seismic shift in lots of different things that can really mean a lot of trouble for Democrats.
And this is a little bit off topic because this is not what we're talking about, but I feel like I have to add this point. That report about the mothership group that raises money, I think it was I don't remember if it was in Politico or a different one. I'm sorry, people. I'm not getting my facts very well, but I do know this one. They discovered that more money was being shoveled to safe districts for Democrats in terms of all over, not just this mothership instance.
Yeah.
So more money is being shoveled to safe districts, not ones where we need to fight, like, a purple district or a slightly red district. It's these safe districts. Like, what do you need that much money in a safe district for?
Right. The idea is like to hold on, right? But then that's just like, okay, fine. You're fighting for the status quo. How's that working for you right now?
Very anti-status quo right now.
Yeah, same.
That's me anyway.
Same. That's me normally though.
It took me a little while to get there.
But to bring it to the local level, right? Because like, what we're trying to do is help like get these, share some insights around these topics to help local groups build blue power in red areas. And so I'm thinking about like this topic of like fighting and like status quo, and thinking about some experiences that we had here in Midland, where we were like building the momentum for our power here and still able to like get some wins that really were foundational for more wins, for more momentum that we're still building on today, even though we didn't have power. Like Midland, like just historically, just in case listeners aren't aware, historically Midland was a red lock, right? It was like no chance for Democrats to win at any level. And we've been able to change that here in the last little bit shy of a decade. And one of those examples that I think other communities can learn from is our own Michigan's efforts at redistricting after the Redistricting Commission and the ballot initiative around Voters Not Politicians was approved. And it was efforts that you led around organizing and just really like being able to like exploit, the ways that things were established in order to, build that power and momentum to get decisions made in favor of what we were looking for in terms of our own districts being more fairly drawn, and more competitively drawn. So Jennifer, why don't you give us the short story about how you kind of thought through and executed those local efforts?
Okay. So first, I just want to make sure listeners understand. So Voters Not Politicians, VNP, is a Michigan organization that is nonpartisan, and they work on voting-related ballot initiatives to get on the ballot and then support and get passed. And they've been extremely successful. Their first one was gerrymandering. And I really think this is an organization that needs to be taken national, where it can be used. Not every state has ballot initiatives the way we do. And they can be good and bad. But for sure, Voters Not Politicians has made a huge change in Michigan, starting with gerrymandering. They got rid of gerrymandering. They made rules for how districts were going to be drawn. They made rules for how the commission was going to operate. There were so many Republicans, so many Democrats, so many independents. You applied, et cetera, like a whole thing. Has it been perfectly smooth? Not perfect, but I think it worked out pretty good. So here in Midland, the city had steadily moved kind of blue. We were purplish blue at the time. And then Bay City and Saginaw, so we're called the Tri-Cities, had all relatively been blue. Bay City was trending a little more red in recent years, but regardless, blue cities. So we figured out what made sense in terms of who we were as a people, who we connected with, where we lived and how we operated, and what would help increase our ability to get Democrats elected. And we coordinated with Bay and Saginaw. We didn't coordinate with Flint as much, although we did end up advocating for one of our districts to include Flint. But I think in the future that's something that we will do with them. But we figured out, like, we created a core group. We got people on an email list. We did Facebook posts. We did whatever we needed to do to like connect with people. We created, like, once we knew what we wanted those districts to be, based on the reasons that we believe those districts should exist, we were able to write out scripts for those, those points, and there's all these things that you have to take into consideration: proximity, not breaking municipal boundaries, like connection through community. And so we established
economics,
all of those economics. Like, there was all these things that you could go with, and you had to read the rules. You read the rules, and you figured out how to work within them. I know, fuck norms and rules, but in this was law.
It's like leveraging the rules, like
Yes. So it's understanding how to work with the system. And that's actually one thing that we pointed out at one point, because the Republicans did an online thing where you could push a button to sign up for a petition, or to put your name on a list of people that said you didn't want these crazy Democratic districts these people have come up with. You wanted these Republican districts. And so we saw that at a hearing, and they spoke before me, and I got up right, like, just a few people after them. And I'm like, I find it interesting that these Republicans come in here with this thing where you just have to push a button and put your name on a list, and they expect you to take that, even though you guys set up an entire system to put witness testimony in, and they're too good to use your witness system, and just played it off as like they're thumbing their nose at your system. That doesn't seem right, does it?
I mean, and it was a long, many months effort, right? And it was really like grassroots, just like folksy organizing, essentially, where we had, where you organized, carpools down to like these hearings, and we had people go in and, people speaking from the heart, but also having like some talking points in front of them, right? Because people often are like, they don't want to get up and testify. So we help them like get their testimony prepared, talking about economics, talking about community, talking about competitiveness, because that was a big, goal, is to have, not districts that leaned one way or another, but districts that were like competitive enough so that it's fair. And then there was like an online component too, where you could like go onto a map, and you could like, vote for a map or whatever. And we organized people to do that too. And I think it's a great example of like, we didn't have power. We were kind of building whatever, but we did have this like people power, like we could tap into. Like, it wasn't like we were starting from scratch and just looking around for Democrats. We were like already could tap into like listservs and Facebook groups that had already been established through our organizing.
And that was like through what Women of Michigan Action Network has done. That is through like what your campaign had done. That was through the Midland County Democratic Party. Like, we'd established these structures that we didn't have power, but we had people, and we were able to do the work.
So working within the confines of the law and the rules, but also like exploiting where we could, to get what we really needed to happen. When we weren't pushing for like, unfairly skewed and gerrymandered Democratic districts, we were pushing for fair and balanced and competitive districts to be part of. And also like common sense, like before this redistricting, Midland, which is a, medium-sized city, was wrapped into a district that went like straight north, and for the U.S. Congress. And we don't have a lot in common as a city with like rural communities an hour or two north of us.
Yeah.
So it made sense, like that was the case we were making. Like, let's make this district more fair, more competitive, more balanced, and let's take this city of Midland and group it in a district with other similar sized cities that are like right next door because we have issues in common more so than like the northern sort of reaches of the lower peninsula.
Yeah.
So we were
Yeah.
like making common sense, but we were also like building a coalition and making sure that those voices were really strong, so that the members of the commission couldn't help but hear us, right?
Yeah.
And make those
Yeah.
decisions.
And
Yeah.
like, we had this opportunity. That's one thing that we've talked about, and we'll talk about in our book more, is seizing opportunity when you have it. Now, not everybody has an opportunity that big. So I know some of you could be listening to me like, well, that's not going to happen here. You're right, it might not. So you got to look around and see what else is there that you can use. You can start your own organization, you can protest, you can write letters to the editor, you can make, like, part of what made Midland blue is that people who were either blue or independent or purple banded together after Trump because they really did not like what he was doing. And that just built and built and built until we had what we have today.
Yeah.
And like, Sarah, I want you to talk a little bit, because like, recently, well, there's been several, but I'll talk about the most recent one. And I don't remember what state he's from. I remember he's Congressman Flood, and I don't know what state he's from. I don't know his first name. I know he's a Republican. And the people that showed up at his town hall just destroyed him. Like, and then, he could have had, his supporters could have showed up. They did not, because either they didn't care.
Didn't think they had to.
They didn't think they had to, or, they're all feeling a little lackluster, like, maybe this big, beautiful bill wasn't so great. Who knows what their reasons are? They didn't show up. The people that are mad did, and he got an earful. And that similar thing has happened here in Midland that you have helped orchestrate.
Yeah, totally. That's a great memory. Well, I mean, I think a theme here is that in these red areas, one thing we can capitalize on is lazy Republicans who just think they can show up and get their name on the ballot and just fight among themselves who's going to have whatever position, but there's no opposition from there's no real opposition from Democrats, and it makes them lazy. So they're not like ready and prepared when you come at them with like real organization, real power, real like just like willingness to like do the hard work. And I love all the videos of these, Republican congressmen getting creamed at home. I just love it so much.
I almost posted the other day, I'm feeling a little depressed. Would a congressman or a Republican congressman please hold another town hall? I need something to uplift me.
I know. It gives me life. And back in 2017, we did something similar. So the short end of that story is that we had a congressman. This is back when we were a gerrymandered district, the city of Midland with this whole sort of rural area, and our congressman was Congressman John Molinar. And, this was after Trump, and we were all starting to get like organized, and the Women of Michigan Action Network was getting its feet under it. And I was leading that group, and we started asking for Representative Molinar to have a town hall, just have one of these town halls, like be in front of us. He would have these like fake teletown halls where like, all the calls were screened and all the questions were like, hey, tell us how amazing you are, essentially. And then he would be willing to have like office hours, but like he would only let 2 people at a time come in. And we were like, no, you are our representative. You need to have an event and, invite, in a big venue, and we need to hear from you. And we pressured and pressured and pressured. He said no. We marched and, rallied out in front of his office. He kept saying no. We held a fake town hall we put like a suit on a chair with a tie, and we asked the suit questions, and we videotaped it, and we sent it to the media, and we kind of had letters to the editor and pictures, and I'm sure that was very embarrassing for him. This whole campaign about John, where are you, essentially. And finally he agreed to do this town hall, and we went, and this is an example of like also understanding the rules and leveraging them, because like they tried to screen it. And what we did was they did this like ticket thing where we did two things. Like they did this ticket thing where they like handed out tickets and then they would like draw a ticket. And then that would let whoever had that number like ask a question, right? So what we did, understanding that that was going to be the case, is we had about, you know, 10 or 15 people ready to ask questions, but we had probably 200 people that went to the town hall, and we had every one of us take a ticket.
Uh-huh.
So what happened was, when any of our numbers got called, everyone had a sheet of paper that had, you know, the names of the people who already asked questions. And if your number got called, but you weren't a question asker, then you just went to the next person and you handed your ticket to them. So it was amazing because we got all the questions.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't know you guys did that.
Oh, yeah.
I've heard a lot of stories about these town halls, and that's not one I've heard before.
It's one of my favorite stories. So yeah, so we basically got to ask all the questions because, you know, we had 20 people ready, 15 or 20 people ready to ask questions, but 200 people with tickets. And so we just like, you know, I think what actually we did was like the person whose ticket was called would go up to the microphone and say, I have ticket number 75 and I'm going to cede my time to, you know, Peter Sinclair. And then Peter Sinclair would get up and ask the question. And we did that over and over and over again, which was lovely and awesome. And like the Molinar and his team were getting so frustrated by the whole thing, which is awesome. The other thing that we did was the whole like card thing where like you had red cards and green cards. We were very vocal about, you know, how, you know, whether or not we liked the responses to our questions, which is mostly no. And, you know, when we didn't like it, we would be vocal, but also hold up a red card. And which is, you know, something that I just love, because to me, it's like, you know, there's nothing that, you know, those congressmen can do about that at all. Like I, as a citizen, at least still, you know, I don't know for how much longer, have the right to sit in any chair in any public space and hold up whatever piece of paper I want to hold up, whether or not you like it. Right. And so it's just like such a great way to like demonstrate our freedom of speech, right? So yeah, so that was something. And I will say, like, you know, it's not like Molinar, you know, left there and just like became a Democrat or like did anything like that.
No, for sure not. He did not listen to a word any of us have ever said. But you know, when it came time for redistricting and he realized the district that we had drawn the city of Midland in, he moved
right
to another place because
so he could run for office
he knew
there.
He couldn't win in that district.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
we chased him away essentially.
Yep. And it's super interesting too, and this is a learning for local kind of folks who are trying to get some momentum going. There was some consternation in the like activist spaces the day after that we had to work through, because the newspaper talked about us being rowdy, and it talked about us being like rude and loud and things like that. And there were people on the Democratic side and in the activist space who didn't like being called rowdy and didn't like being called rude, right? That's like ingrained like socialization. And we had to work through in like, you know, spaces in our like activist groups about like, actually, that's what we were looking for. And like that article was great. And that's the aim for all of this. And it's okay to be, you know, called rowdy and rude and all of that. It's our right to be that way. And we're angry. So yeah, that was an interesting like arc of all of that too. But another example of like, we literally in 2017 had zero power. We were just finding ourselves like essentially, but we just said, you know what, like, you know, we are entitled to hear from our elected officials, and we're just going to push on that until we do. And then we're going to push when we get there, and we're going to kind of work within the rules and the laws, but leverage the gaps that we saw
and break norms
to make it happen and break the norms.
Break the norm.
Yep.
Yeah, I have 2 points on that, and hopefully I'll remember both of them, because you know, once I get talking, I forget. But so back to like I'm guessing that some of the people that did not like being called rowdy and rude were the same people that were maybe not so keen on having a trans or having a drag queen be our MC at a protest because of how it would make us look.
Yeah, you were probably
and that's
right about
not
that.
like, that's not a criticism of them. That my point I want to make is we have to get over ourselves. We have to get over the quiet, peaceful, well, no, not peaceful. We still need to be peaceful, but like if you're comparing rowdy, like rowdy's okay. Loud, I have, limits to where I will go in terms of my rowdiness. And then there are other people, friends of mine, who will get a hell of a lot more rowdy than me. And that's something I had to learn through a lot of these spaces, is not to judge how somebody protests. Now, I'm not talking vandalism, fires, breaking, stealing, none of that. That's wrong. That's breaking laws that are meant to be there for the good of people. But when we're talking norms and standards and civil disobedience and, whether you're shouting or, like some people are just going to be better at giving a gentle speech, and that's okay. We need them. And some people are going to be really good at giving a loud, rowdy, fuck you speech. And we need them too.
Yeah. And we should all realize that all of those things are super necessary. And sometimes like our own need for like comfort, right? Can get in the way. And so it's like, I'm uncomfortable by drag queens. I'm uncomfortable by this group that I'm being part of being called rowdy. And like, we have this, this need for comfort is gonna kill us. It's gonna like get in the way of the work that we need to do. And for sure, the Republicans, the MAGAs out there do not care about comfort at all. And so we have to start taking guns to gunfights and being okay with some discomfort in those spaces, and like leveraging and exploiting the places where we can have our voice be heard is so important. And it's really important. Like we started talking about this national, national Democrats fighting back in Texas and California and on and on. And we can also do that here. We're sharing some examples with you about how we can do that locally, even when you don't feel like you have the power.
And even to get even more local than just go, trying to communicate with your US congressman or congresswoman, some things that we have done is, like, there was, there still is, we haven't stopped it, but we had our voices heard. There's a prayer at the beginning of every county commission meeting. I am personally against that. I think that any religion should have zero place in our government. So I organized 10 people to go, and we all gave different testimony, different reasons why we did not feel that prayer should be there. And, that's just something simple you can do. And we'll go back. They're still doing the prayer. Well, there's other things that we've gone and talked about, whether you're talking the county commission or the city council. Find out, be aware of what's going on in your community. And it doesn't even have to necessarily be a Democratic or Republican thing. We have flood mitigation problems here in Midland and in the greater Midland County. For those of you who don't know, we had this dam break in 2020, several dams break in 2020, massive flooding, thousands and thousands of people evacuated. Sarah and I both had flood water in our homes and have had to deal with that. So it's a real issue, and it does not matter if you're Republican or Democrat. That is an issue that you can band together with people and try to get what's best for your community.
Yeah, totally. Totally. And I'm also thinking about efforts at the school board, right? When there was like some funkiness going on with like DEI and those
we had
kinds
a Moms
of things.
for Liberty group here that was pretty active for a little while. They've kind of died off. Don't know if they're going to come back, but
and just showing up, like we can, it's like organizing to be like, we need 7 people to show up at the school board tomorrow night to do public testimony about DEI in this way. And we can get people to do that. And that is super powerful. And even if you don't have power on the school board or power in the, like official community ways. You can show up with people. And for sure, if you live in a red area that is just used to being red, that has never had to fight for anything, you're not going to get a fight in those spaces. You're going to be, you're going to show up with 7 or 10 people, and that's going to be the predominant voice of that space. So know and that's super valuable to have.
Some of the bravest people I have seen in my community, but even more so outside of my community, where, as you see videos on TikTok, Instagram, etc. I have seen people in very, very, very red communities go to a school board or a city council and talk about a policy that's going to affect trans kids, gay kids, Black kids, whatever. White people, white cisgender people, just your average Joes, getting up, and they're probably one voice in 50, and they're saying what you're doing is wrong. These trans kids deserve support, or these Black kids deserve books about them, or whatever it is. And seeing these people get up and stand up in a red community is one of the bravest things I've seen. And not because I think harm is going to come to them, because I think 99% of the time, our fear of physical harm from this sort of stuff is not grounded. Now, there are some places, yes, I'm sure. But I think 99% of the time, our fear of physical harm from this it doesn't really actually exist. But the fact that you could have people be angry at you, or call you a commie liberal, or, shun you, or, whatever. But at the same time, you're going to have people be like, oh, I didn't think of it that way. Oh, I think the same thing, but I thought I was the only one and I didn't want to speak up. I mean, you're going to have that. So if you can be brave in those spaces, you are going to create, as you have said before, courage generates courage. And if you just keep doing it, you're going to build the things that we've built here in Midland.
Yeah, so important. So important. So like understanding what's going on nationally, how we might take some of those learnings to kind of do that fighting back locally in ways that are kind of outside the norm is going to be so important for the next couple of years and beyond. So we'd love to hear your stories about what's going on in your communities and how you're doing that fighting and how you're pushing against those norms, because it's a huge pillar of what we're trying to accomplish right now.
Yeah. So just throwing out the plug that we want you to subscribe to our podcast on, it could be YouTube, Amazon, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Podbean, Apple. We've got it all over, so you can subscribe. Please like, follow, share, comment, etc. And we're working on a website for one, and a blueprint to get you started. And that's going to be downloadable. It's free. It's going to be something that's just, like a 5-6 page thing that gives you kind of just some pointers on how to really get started being an activist or an organizer in your community. That'll be available on our website. And we're talking about some other cool things, like Sarah said, with your stories. Like we're talking about creating on that website, maybe call it the Blackboard. We're still brainstorming all of this stuff, but a place where we can post your ideas, because we do not believe that we are the be all, end all, and know all of how to organize in your communities. We know you guys have stories that are going to help everybody else, and we want to make sure that this is a growing community we're sharing and building.
Yeah, for real. And the thing about all of this is Jennifer and I and the rest of our team here in this community, we didn't have anyone to turn to figure out how to do all this stuff. And for sure, no one was coming from the state party or anywhere else to help us. So we had to figure it all out ourselves. And then after, we've been able to demonstrate success, no one from the party or anywhere else has come to us to ask us how they might learn, they might share what we've been able to accomplish here to other communities. And so the whole part of all of this is us getting this learning out there to other red areas, other folks who are looking to build blue power in red areas, because we're tired of being asked, or we're tired of waiting to be asked how we did it. So we're just sharing anyways.
So yeah, look for us on all socials. I think we're on pretty much everything. Beyond Resistance Pod. You can send us a message, post and tag us in it. The website is not up yet, but when we get it up and running, we'll probably have a spot where you can fill in your stories there too, and we'll post them. The ones that we want to share. But yeah, go ahead and get that started. We would we'll boost your post and try to get that out there too.
We love it. We love it. All right. Jennifer, I feel like we don't have time for a closing question today unless you've got a quick one in mind.
I don't have one.
We're in the throes of like the last bit of summer and also the like getting ready for the first day of school prep for our kids and Jennifer.
So I am technically on vacation. Sarah is leaving tomorrow for vacation. So we're just kind of crossing here to try to get one last pod done. There won't be one next week unless I find some amazing ability to like pop one out by myself. But we have kids to get ready for school because they go back the 19th and I've done nothing.
Lots to do. I've done nothing also, but I'm also past the whole have to have perfection before school starts. Like as long as they have enough clean underwear that they wash themselves, but I just make sure that they're doing it for like a week's worth of clean underwear is really all I'm going for. But making sure like we're just like are in the right mindset, I guess, to have a really great school year is what I'm focused on. So all right. Well, we'll see y'all soon. Thanks for following us and being interested in the pod. Again, this is Beyond Resistance, where we help local communities in red areas build blue power and start winning. So enjoy the rest of your summer.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye.